Your buried emotions aren't gone. They're just hidden underground. And from there, they shape your thoughts, your relationships, and your identity without you even realizing it. Most men struggle because they've never been taught how to deal with their pain. They don't know how to actually sit with it, to feel it, to move through it. I know this because I've worked with many high-performing men for years. They were the ones that built the life that they thought would fix them. But no matter what they achieved, they still felt stuck. And it always came back to unprocessed pain that was quietly and unconsciously shaping their reality. Facing this pain is the work that most people avoid. But if you're ready to face it, if you're ready to finally let go of what has been limiting you, you're in the right space. Because true freedom comes from surrendering to the truth that you've been avoiding your whole entire life. Okay, guys, so let's get into this. And this isn't about like dwelling in our trauma. I've been seeing a lot of people like talking about like, don't dwell on your trauma. What you focus on creates more of the same thing. And while I understand that and get that, it is true. What you hold in mind tends to manifest. So if you're always thinking about all of your problems, then your problems are going to persist. But I think understanding why we are the way that we are is the way out. And once we can make a connection to why these limitations exist and what they're connected to, that awareness alone will begin to allow us to break free from them. So Hawkins, who is like my mentor, always said, if you ever have a problem, you want to just create more awareness around it. And so in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you about the unconscious pain that you're avoiding, how to catch and connect it. And once you learn how to do that, how you will never be able to unsee this stuff. Like once you see it, you kind of see it for good. And then that is the step into finally letting it go. So stick around because at the end of the video, I kind of give you my 4-step process on how to take this whole entire kind of training or this podcast into the real world. All right. And so I guess the first thing that you want to do when you're looking at processing unprocessed pain is you want to start with a behavior. So just look at the behaviors that are not serving you. And the ones that are on the surface are pretty easy. It's like, you probably have addictions, you're drinking too much, you're eating too much, you're addicted to porn, whatever it may be. You are angry, you're frustrated, you're overwhelmed, you're overworking. Like these are the behaviors that are not serving us. And they are our greatest limitations. But for some reason, we've become addicted to them. We've become attached to them. We think that this is the only way out. The only way to try and feel better is to do more, for example. And so pick whatever behavior you want. Now, the second thing is that some of the behaviors that you might have, you might be unconscious of them. You might not even realize that you have this behavior that is a huge limitation to you. And a way to uncover those is to ask yourself, what is it that people would say about you behind closed doors or behind your back? And just take a minute, like 5 minutes, to kind of like write out everything that someone would say about you when you weren't around. And that would be a good indication into some of the unconscious behaviors that are also limiting you. And of course, it's always great to have like a coach. This is what I do for my clients, because someone that is on the outside of the jar, it's a lot easier for them to see the label that you cannot see. So that's what a coach will help you do, is pull you out of that jar and be like, look, you're missing this whole entire thing. And that's what I see a lot from my clients. They think they know what their problem is, but they're completely clueless as to what their problem actually is. But for the purposes of this training, let's pick a behavior that you want to change. You pick a behavior that you know is a limitation. And so once we identify the behavior, that's kind of like at the top of this triangle. Once we identify this behavior, the next thing we want to do is we want to start linking all of the thoughts that are resulting in generating this behavior. So I was just on a call with one of my clients. The behavior he has at this point is like essentially like overthinking. And that overthinking is causing him to feel overwhelmed, stressed out, anxious, everything you can possibly imagine. He can't sleep, he can't eat. And it's because he has this constant overthinking. And so when we started bringing awareness to what are the thoughts that are causing all of this overthinking, the thoughts were about essentially beating himself up. And so it was this constant berating himself for essentially not being good enough. And so when we start to look at those thoughts and we connect them to the behavior, every time either the behavior of the thought shows up, we can now see it. And so let me give you another example. If you had the behavior of going to food to avoid feeling, all you would want to do is start noticing all of the thoughts around food. It's like maybe the thought is like, well, that's no big deal. I can just eat this. I'll be okay. or maybe the thought is, I shouldn't eat this, but then you end up eating it and you feel guilty. And so we just want to kind of put all of the thoughts into like a container. And so now every time we think a thought, we can say, oh, that is just about not having enough, not being enough. And we just put it into that container. And what what you'll find is that the mind will tell you the same thing in a million different ways. And if we let those thoughts go unchecked, we then call it stress. It's just like this big blanketed statement. But when you begin to observe what you're telling yourself, and you can recognize how what you're telling yourself is creating the behavior that is not serving you, right there is enough to begin making some major changes. But this is where most people kind of stop, is they stop at these first two levels. So we have the behavior level and the thought level. And so everyone's heard the saying that if you change your thinking, you can change your life. And that is true. But the problem being is that we have about 20 to 70,000 unconscious thoughts every single day. And so if you are someone that beats yourself up, for example, then you will be unconsciously beating yourself up even when you don't realize it. I've been kind of experiencing this in golf. It's like I thought I was kind of over the beating myself up, and then I had a really good round one day and I played a really bad round the next day. And I just watched my mind like just destroy me, like be really evil to me. Like, you're a piece of shit. Like, how could you be so stupid? Like, it's like you think you're good at golf and you're nothing. And I was like, just watched my mind do that. And I was like, holy cow. And what I recognized was that is still inside me. It's just the stressor that brought it all out to the surface. And so as I began to pay attention to that, I was like, oh, I got to start noticing when these thoughts show up in other areas. And then lo and behold, now that I was aware, I started seeing those thoughts in other areas of my life. So I too have this behavior of beating myself up. And so I now, with that awareness, can start noticing it. And just by noticing those thoughts, you're going to create some change. Okay. And you don't even have to do anything besides notice them. So that is like a really great spot. But that is usually not enough because there are so many unconscious thoughts. And so that's why we go into the third level. And now we move into like the subconscious layer. And this is pretty much why no one ever actually changes, because they never go into this like third unconscious layer that is required to create real change. And so below the thoughts, we have a belief system. So we created a belief system somewhere in our lives that, maybe the belief system is that everyone is better than us, or we are not as good as, or we don't have what it takes. That was one of mine. Like, I don't have what it takes to, become YouTube famous or whatever it may be. And so when you start believing that, the thoughts will be endless, doubting, beating yourself up into more action, doing more, trying to work harder to try and pace that belief system. But no matter what you do, you'll never shift because you never shifted the belief system. So then below the thoughts, we want to identify what we started buying into. Like, what's the belief system that we bought into that led to these thoughts that is leading to this behavior? And so now we're getting to like the root of what's actually going on. And then below that layer, we have the layer of emotion. And so we experience an emotion at some level, at some place in our life. We experience some sort of pain. Let me try and think of like, when did I stop believing in myself? Okay, I'm doing my own therapy here. So I stopped believing in myself in grade school when I just wasn't getting school. School was not for me. I'm not an advocate for school. I would get pulled aside into like a special learning class to try and help me stay up to pace with the class. And the embarrassment, the shame that I experienced from being pulled out of that class led to the creation of an unconscious, meaning I had no idea I created it, led to a creation of an unconscious belief system that I didn't have what it takes. I was missing what was required to do the normal day-to-day processes that everyone else did. And so because of that, it led to this, the only thing that I can do to get over this inability in myself is to outwork every single person. And so then I went to war against every single person in the world to try and do better than them. And as you can see, that trying to be better than everybody is like an insanely heavy burden to carry with you your whole entire life. And seeing how that could be left unchecked could lead to the behavior of overworking, could lead to the behavior of escaping the pain of not being good enough through addiction. Just with this recognition that the shame and the embarrassment that I was avoiding was actually the result of the behavior that is today not serving me. But we also want to look at that behavior as like a protection because it served us to some degree. Like if you're a high achieving man, it served you to some degree to like work hard because it allowed you to build the life that you now have, right? But the thing is that more work is no longer solving for the feeling of being the stupid kid. There's nothing more that you can add now that you've kind of added all that you could, and you're starting to recognize that adding more is not solving what's going on and within. The next question question is to step out of that behavior that's stealing your joy, that's causing you to work 80-hour weeks, that's missing time with the family, that's making you miss out on the joy of freedom of life because you keep thinking that more is the answer. And now you've come to the awareness that more is not the answer, but you don't know how to solve. And that's what we're doing here in this podcast. And so the way that we solve is we recognize the emotional pain that this behavior has protected us from feeling, the belief system that also protected us from that feeling, that perpetuated those thoughts. And then we choose to lean into the feeling. Now, here's the wild thing is that once you finally try and say, okay, I'm ready to start feeling the shame and embarrassment that I experienced as a kid for being stupid, you're going to be completely clueless on how to connect to that because the mind has done such a proficient job of keeping you out of that pain. So it's like you've become so good at getting out of the pain, you don't even know how to re-experience the pain. The interesting thing is once you start asking to break free from that pain will start flowing into your life. And the fifth level of this triangle is to connect to where it all began. And now you don't have to get to the root. The root will eventually be revealed to you, but just think about the first incident in your life where you experienced this emotional pain, right? And like mine was like grade 3 when I was, being pulled out of class. That was like the first moment that I brought it back to where I really experienced like the pain of not being smart enough, right? And so as you begin to lean into this, you may not get the first incident, but you will get some incident. And that incident, whatever pops into your mind, will be your connection point where you can connect to this pain that you've been avoiding your whole entire life. And you're going to have to essentially reteach yourself what embarrassment feels like, reteach yourself what shame feels like. And once you start to identify how that feels, it's usually in the body. You usually feel it like pit in the stomach, tightness in the chest, tension in the shoulders and neck. Once you identify what that feels like, then you want to stay in the feeling. Feelings, once fully connected to, can be let go of in a matter of minutes. It's the resistance to feeling fully that keeps us stuck, right? And so I said that I would show you my model. And so the model that I've created to process through all of these layers is called Catch, Connect, Release, Recontextualize, or CCRR. And so what you want to do in the catch phase is we are identifying a behavior that is no longer serving us. Let's just say the behavior of late night snacking. We'll keep it light. And so every time you go to the fridge, you are no longer unconsciously going to the fridge after 9 p.m. After 9 p.m., you've now brought into your awareness that this is a behavior that is limiting you. And so when you go to reach for the fridge, you want to say, why am I going to the fridge right now? What is it that I started feeling or thinking that brought me to thinking I'm going to eat to eating late at night? And then you're going to connect it to the thoughts and to the feeling that you're avoiding. And so now with this catching and connecting, you are taking back your power from the unconscious mechanism of avoiding feeling whatever it is you're feeling. So let's just say, for example, you have money stress. And so every time money stress shows up, you right away want to go to the fridge late night to try and avoid feeling the stress or the pain of not having enough or the fear of poverty or whatever it is. But we have to start and make that connection. After we do the catch and connect, the third step is to lean in or release the feeling by leaning into the feeling. We want to feel what it would feel like, using this example, to lose all of our money. What did it feel like when you went broke, whenever that time was that you went broke? What did it feel like to have your car repossessed? One of the things that happened to me. What did it feel like in that moment when you felt like you didn't have enough? And it's like, to me, when I just connect to it right now, I just turn towards the emotion right now. I felt hopeless, right? Oh, that's heavy. Okay, let me just stay in hopeless here for a minute. Let me just stay in this pain. And then the last step is to recontextualize. One is to ask yourself in this recontextualization, am I okay here? Am I okay in this space? Am I okay in this pain? 99% of the time, the answer is yes. Yes, I can handle it. And then the recontextualization might be, did that pain make me better or worse? Did I learn from that failure? Did I learn from being that low how to manage my finances? Yes, it did. So was that pain so bad? No, it wasn't. And what we're doing in this process is we are training our mind to be okay in the pain. Because what the mind has thought up until this point is that you are not okay in the pain. And so because of that, it created a protection. The mind essentially perceived the embarrassment of being stupid, using mine, as potential death, okay? And so it went to work endlessly to protect me from that pain. And so when I show the mind that I'm okay in that pain and I'm not going to die, the mechanism that the mind has used to protect you from that pain or protect me from that pain gets turned off. It's like if you never knew how to swim, never go in the water. You were so fearful of going in the water. Like if you went on a boat, you had like 9 life jackets on, like you just did not want to get anywhere near the water. But if you finally had the courage to step into the water and learn how to swim, and you were completely comfortable in the water and you could swim all around for hours and hours and hours, then all of those protections that you once put on, all of those life jackets, to kill this analogy, all of those life jackets that you once put on would no longer be necessary, because if you fell into the water, you would be confident that you knew how to swim. And so those life jackets are the protections that the mind has created to protect you from the fear of dying. And when you show the mind that you won't die if you fall into the water, then it no longer needs those protections. And that's exactly what we want to do, because those protections are our greatest limitations. And this is how we transcend the behaviors and the pain and the emotions that are no longer serving us. We catch them, we connect them to the pain we're avoiding, we allow ourselves to feel that pain, probably for the first times in our lives, and then we recontextualize that pain so that we can continue to move forward. And this is how you don't dwell on the past. This is how you just notice and observe why the mind is doing what it's doing so that you can transcend it. I hope this video helped you. If it served you in any way, you want to see more content like this, you want to keep moving up the scale of consciousness, like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments.